Welcome to Here's to Your Health with Joshua Lane. Here's to Your Health discusses the current thinking in wellness, bringing you the most influential thinkers in beauty, fitness, and longevity. Your host, Joshua Lane, was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that helped bring wheatgrass sprouts and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health, Joshua Lane.
Welcome to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Josh Lane. Today we have a really important discussion. We have an author, Peter Gutje, who's calling from Denmark. And Peter wrote a book called How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines, published by Skyhorse Publishers. Skyhorse is an important publishing house. And I'll just read about the book. It's a story of scientific misconduct committed by Merck, the fourth biggest drug company in the world. Merck has committed scientific misconduct before, and this book describes the fraud related to Merck's arthritis drug Vioxx, which killed tens of thousands of patients because Merck concealed that it causes heart attacks. And in his role as an expert witness in a lawsuit against Merck, Dr. Peter C. Gutje, our guest today, read 112,000 pages of confidential study reports about Merck's HPV vaccine Gardasil, corresponding to 500 medium-sized books, and wrote an expert report of 350 pages with 4 appendices. Dr. Gutje reveals that Merck used numerous tactics to avoid reporting serious neurological harms of Gardasil. Now, those are strong statements, and the book is How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines. Peter C. Gutje, calling in from Denmark. Sir, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, with that brief intro, and now Vioxx really, was an important drug in the United States for a long time, and according to the documentation you presented and is widely known, that it really caused harm and death to tens of thousands of people. Now, the HPV vaccine also still being used, I believe, and it's still very controversial. And I guess really you are the foremost expert scientist on the subject.
Well, at least I can say with confidence that I don't think anybody else in the whole world has read these 112,000 pages but me. And of course, I didn't read every single page because some pages were just laboratory values. But it gave me a very deep insight into the many ways Merck had cheated with their data.
Obviously, this is a very serious topic. It affects the lives of people around the world. Now, so please tell the listeners about the HPV vaccine. When was it introduced? What did you discover? What are the problems associated with its use? And also, why has it been allowed to be used here in the United States?
Well, that were pretty many questions.
Yes, it is.
But these vaccines came on the market, I think, around 2008. There was controversy about them quite early on. And one of the controversies is about the effect. Because if you go to screening regularly and get a pap smear or an HPV test, then you can virtually, with 100% likelihood, avoid dying from cervical cancer because it develops so slowly that if you go to screening regularly, you can pick up the cell changes and you can treat them by surgery before they ever become cancer. And the irony is that this vaccine has been sold to the whole world as life-saving, which I cannot see it is, because if everybody goes to screening, I cannot really see where you can save any more lives than that. And the irony is that since the vaccine is not 100% effective, it is effective against around 70% of these HPV strains that can cause cancer. So other strains can cause cancer, and therefore it is recommended to still go to screening, even though you have become vaccinated. So where is the big clue in all this. I have always had difficulty seeing this. And also, there are some antibody studies that show that the protection against the HPV viruses, the antibody levels actually decline surprisingly rapidly. And therefore, we don't know how long does this protection last? Is it rather short-lived or what is it? And we don't have any convincing data that the vaccines prevent cervical cancer or that they prevent deaths. The only thing we have are data from randomized trials where they lower the amount of cell changes, but many of these cell changes would disappear by themselves without any surgical treatment. So this is just a short introduction that on the benefit side, there is also controversy. And then we have not even touched the harms yet.
Yes. Our guest, Dr. Peter C. Gucci, who is the author of a new book from Skyhorse Press called How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines. So, by the way, sir, as we do the interview, what is your background? What is your academic background? What do you get your undergraduate and graduate degrees, and where are you teaching?
Well, I actually have three educations. I first got a full education in Sweden in biology and chemistry, and then I got a full education in Copenhagen in the same two subjects. And then I worked in the drug industry for some years and decided to become a doctor. And I qualified as a specialist in internal medicine and later became professor of clinical research design and analysis because I'm able to look at a scientific paper and tell rather quickly whether it's reliable or not. That's kind of my expertise.
Yes, sir. So with that excellent expertise, are you seen now by colleagues as an outlier? So what do men that you've worked with for 50 years in your profession, what do they say to you now about these kind of studies that you present when everyone else is so quiet?
Well, a lot of my colleagues have financial conflicts of interest. They are paid by the drug companies, so you can't expect them to be thrilled when I again and again tell them that the emperor has no clothes.
Right.
Because that's what I have often found. And my reputation, I'm retired now. I'm 75, but I'm still working. My international reputation, I can say is high. I'm the only Dane who ever published over 100 papers in the 5 most prestigious medical journals. So I'm able to produce science at a high level. And when people don't like my results, they have not really had counter arguments. They could not find faults with my results, for example. And then they resorted to ad hominem arguments like, how can I publish in psychiatry when I'm not a psychiatrist? Well, I have learned to read, so I can publish in all subjects.
Right. Our guest is the author of How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines, calling in from Denmark. Now, what do we need to know in America now about the HPV vaccines? How are they offered to us? Should we not be taking them? And what is being done to get this information out?
America is an extreme case. Nowhere in the world do people get vaccinated against so many different microorganisms as in America. The childhood vaccination program is much bigger than in Denmark and other European countries, for example. And your attitude to the HPV vaccines is pretty uncritical. But I must say it's also pretty uncritical in the rest of the world. So you are not alone on this particular issue. But we have not even discussed the harms yet. What we have discussed is that the benefits are not that impressive. And if you go to the harms, it's clear that some people get seriously harmed by the HPV vaccines. And what we are talking about here are, for example, serious neurological harms, and they likely have an autoimmune background, which has been shown in Denmark that those girls who got serious symptoms, they had to a much higher extent than other people antibodies against the autoimmune system, the autoimmune nervous system. And what does that mean? That means, for example, that these young girls, they have a tendency to faint. If you rise quickly, you can be dizzy. This is a symptom that is called POTS. And before these vaccines came on the market, the Danish syncope unit did not see these young people, at least only rarely. But then suddenly, after the vaccines came on the market, they saw these young girls who had these symptoms. And when I first heard about it from one of the researchers, it was predominantly elite sports girls. And I know that if you are an elite sports person, your immune system is not functioning equally well as if you don't do sports to the extreme. So it made a lot of sense to me that a reaction like this could be seen predominantly in young elite sports women. And all over the world, people try to say that, oh no, it's only in these girls' heads, it's psychological, it's psychiatric, which was very offensive in my view.
Right.
They really just wanted to come back to their sports, which they loved. They didn't invent something that didn't exist. And now we know that these symptoms are real, and we know that Merck has hidden a lot of the reports of serious neurological harms, even for the FDA, for the US Food and Drug Administration, and also for the European Medicines Agency. That has been documented.
Wow. The book is How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines. Peter Gupcha, who is the author, who has, is an MD, many degrees, calling in today from Denmark. Sir, so if the benefits don't seem to really be there, and how surgery could be very helpful, and how the medication only works really theoretically in 70% of the time, if you don't mind, what is going on in the United States so that this Gardasil vaccine is pushed so strongly? If you don't mind, I'd really like to talk about, I guess, the political push on the part of the drug companies.
Am I not correct when I say that it became part of the childhood vaccination program?
I think it
in
has.
the US?
I think so. Yes, sir.
And let me give you this comment. You don't spread HPV in the classroom, do you?
No.
It's a sexually transmitted disease. So, I mean, why did people go out of their mind in the United States? I just don't get it. And we must get away from the idea that the vaccine area is taboo. And many people tend to say that all vaccines are good for us and we should take everything on offer. And this is not true. Vaccines will always cause harm in some people. So what we need to consider is, do a particular vaccine cause more benefit than harm? And most vaccines cause far more benefits than harms. So that's fine. But this is not really the case with the HPV vaccines. There, the balance between benefits and harms is really delicate for the reasons I have already told you. And when the risk of somebody getting cervical cancer and dying from it is very, very low, and practically non-existent if you go to screening regularly, then the harm side start to have much more weight. And it's not only neurological harms, there are actually people who have died as a direct result of the HPV vaccination. So my wife is also a doctor. She's a professor in clinical microbiology. So we know a good deal about microorganisms in my family. So when our oldest daughter was asked if she was willing to get an HPV vaccine when she was 12 years old, we were already back then in doubt. And we decided to vaccinate our two daughters, but I'm not so sure I would recommend that today after I have read Merck's secret reports.
Yes, sir. And so is your daughter now a grown woman in her 30s?
Yeah, they are approaching 30 years of age. Yeah.
And was there any bad results because they did take the HPV vaccines?
No, they were not harmed by the vaccine, but and the harms are rare. The very serious harms are very, very rare with the HPV vaccines. But on the other hand, they can be very serious and sometimes deadly. So you need all the time to weigh this against the benefits, which, as you know, I have some difficulty seeing how wonderful that vaccine should be.
For those tuning into the show, our guest is the author of How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines. So, Doctor, you feel that in general, in the United States at least, the need for this medication has been oversold by Merck, and that indeed really they've hid they've hid many ideas that of the harms it causes, and is it just based on they want to sell product? I'm not trying to be crude. Is it really just they're going to make money on this and they have the clout to push it through?
Journalists have sometimes asked me what my opinion is of the ethics in the drug industry.
Yes, sir.
And I have responded, I can't respond. I can't tell you about something that doesn't exist.
Okay.
Because the only thing that counts in the drug industry, that's money.
Right.
And Merck was heavily criticized for their marketing campaign, where they had ads like, "Do you want to be one of those who die from cervical cancer?" They were very emotional, these ads, and Merck was so criticized for them that I think that they withdrew somewhat from that. But of course, the marketing has been highly effective because most people do get the HPV vaccine.
Right, right. And also, of course, you did not comment, but document how Vioxx, which I remember was very popular years ago when my dad was alive and taking medications, and how it cost the lives of, I don't know, at least tens of thousands or more of Americans, and it was withdrawn from the market, and they paid a fine, but no one went to jail for that. No one went to jail.
This is very sad.
Yes.
Many, many top executives in drug companies should be behind bars because they are deliberately causing the death of thousands of patients again and again and again. And then the company pays some big fine, some billions of dollars, and it's just a small price for doing business. They earn a lot more than it costs them to do the crime. So therefore, 12 years ago, I wrote a book called Deadly Medicines and Organized Crime: How Big Pharma is Corrupting Healthcare. Their business model is organized crime according to US law. So a good deal of them should be behind bars. I agree with you.
Yes. By the way, I read that in your book, and I thought I would just mention that on the air. Again, we have today the author of How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines, Dr. Dr. Peter Gofcha, calling in from Denmark. And, the book is upsetting. It's just an upsetting book. Now, I like to, this is kind of a philosophical question. Do you feel that for whatever reason in the United States, where I live, but also around the world, there's a moment in time when people are so unhappy and have so many bad stories about their family members or friends or colleagues who have been injured by medications that things could actually change in the United States? Can you make a prediction on that?
I have estimated that our prescription drugs are the leading cause of death, ahead of heart disease and cancer.
Ahead of, oh my
And
goodness.
that our psychiatric drugs are the third leading cause of death. So when our drugs kill millions, and many of those who died didn't even need the drugs that killed them. For example, the 120,000 people who were estimated to have been killed by Vioxx, they didn't need the drug because there were other painkillers that they could have taken. And I don't understand that why the whole world panics when this virus got loose from a laboratory in Wuhan and created the COVID-19 pandemic. The whole world panicked, and it caused a lot of misery and a lot of deaths. The lockdowns have caused a lot of deaths, and yet our prescription drugs kill so many people, and no one does anything. But I see some light in America now that you have Kennedy as Secretary of Health. Kennedy is well aware how harmful psychiatric drugs are. He is well aware that the drug industry corrupts virtually everybody. They can corrupt, including politicians. So he wants to do something about it. And one of the things he wants to do is to forbid TV ads for prescription drugs. It's only the United States and New Zealand that allow this. And this is definitely very, very harmful, because then people go to their doctor and say, I want this drug that they have seen on television.
Right.
So you have right now in America actually a fair chance of doing better than in the recent past. I'm looking forward to seeing what is going to happen.
Wow. Whew. Okay, this is Josh Lane. You're listening to Here's to Your Health, and we're chatting with Dr. Gofcha, Dr. Peter Gofcha, calling in from Denmark. His brand new book is How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines, and it's from Skyhorse Publishers out of New York. They've got some great books, quite frankly. And let me just mention this. Dr. Gofcha is a professor emeritus, a physician, and a best-selling author, and his scientific works have been cited over 190,000 times. And he is the only Dane who has published over 100 papers in the big 5 journals: the British Medical Journal, the Lancet, Journal of the American Medical Association, the Annals of Internal Medicine, and the New England Journal of Medicine. Currently, he is a researcher, lecturer, and author, an independent consultant, expert witness in lawsuits, and produces films and interviews in collaboration with award-winning Danish filmmakers. And again, from Skyhorse Publishing, a really important book. And the book is, please go out and read this book, buy this book, get your local library to pick it up, How Merck and Drug Regulators Hid Serious Harms of the HPV Vaccines. This is Josh Lane. You're listening to Here's to Your Health. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Medical scientists worldwide are encouraging people to eat more fish. Most American diets are low in cold water fish that are abundant in important omega-3 oils. DHA and EPA are the vital components of fish oil that provide healthy benefits. Not only are they crucial for brain and vision development, they're very important for cardiovascular health. Carlson, America's leading Norwegian fish oil brand, specializes in both great-tasting soft gels that are easy to swallow and fish oil liquids that don't taste fishy. That's right. Carlson provides the most extensive line of fish oils to meet all your needs. You can take Carlson fish oils with confidence. For Carlson fish oils are tested for purity, potency, and freshness. Ask for Carlson Norwegian fish oils today. That's right. Ask for Carlson Norwegian fish oils today.
Hi friends, Monica Brandt here for Aloe Life #1 in aloe vera. As a professional international athlete for over 30 years between track, ninja, and fitness, I want to remind you of daily exercise plus Aloe Life, my daily wake up to look and feel your best. Aloe Life products boosted victory for me in 2016, winning first place World's European Union figure. See aloelife.com athletes. Plus workouts are easier too with Aloe Life products for digestion, energy, and stamina for success, or even dropping weight. It's so easy, friends, to choose a winning team. Aloe Gold or Detox Plus with certified organic daily green superfoods by Aloe Life. Be your own best athlete with Aloe Life products that work fast. aloelife.com or 1-800-414-ALOE. Choose Aloe Life today, friends. I'm glad I did. This is Monica Brandt, Fitness Olympia champion and fan of Aloe Life for over 10 years. Aloe Life since 1991.
The latest from the greatest, the best in new music by classic rockers, with your host, the insane Daryl Wayne.
This is Alice Cooper, and if Daryl Wayne is insane, what does that make me? Criminally insane. Stick around to find out.
Many of the artist interviews for the latest from the greatest have been captured on audiobook. There is a Volume 1 and Volume 2. Great information and conversations with people in the industry and people surrounded by the industry, and of course the rock stars themselves.
I'm the Reverend Al Green, and you're listening to the insane Daryl Wayne. And I said Wayne Insane.
You can find it on Amazon or Blackstone Audio. Search for the latest from the greatest from Daryl Wayne, DARRELLWAYNE.
Hello, this is Weird Al Yankovic, and you're listening to the insane Daryl Wayne, aren't you?
Welcome to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Josh Lane, and today we have a important musician who was known originally as a blues musician, and then really became known as an educator and has worked with orchestras around the United States. So he really has kind of a unique trajectory of influence, and it's Corky Siegel. Corky Siegel is a young guy, had a blues band, the Siegel Schwal Blues Band, I think started in 1964, and if you go to his website, you'll see a nice picture of him sitting on Howling Wolf's lap with his band around him, and Howling Wolf, certainly an important, I'll use the word cultural icon, musician, actually took Corky on tour with him when he played, I think, in 1966. So this is all very cool stuff. Corky, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here, John.
Thank you. Very, very, very happy. Really, very happy to have you on my show. Quite frankly, it's really great fun. So, let's talk about Howling Wolf. So, how did you, as a real young, I guess, teenage boy, strike up a friendship with Howling Wolf?
Okay, so imagine early 1965, and of course Jim Schwal. I had met Jim Schwal, but here I am at home listening. Jim Schwal was my guitarist of the Siegel Schwal band. So this is pre-Siegel Schwal. So I'm listening to all these records of these amazing Chicago blues masters like Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Willie Dixon and all those people. And I met Jim Schwal. I learned a few blues songs. I wished that I was Howlin' Wolf or Muddy Waters, but I realized very quickly that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And I wanted the music to sound good, so I sort of developed an approach where I really simplified the blues. And we learned a couple tunes that way. We wrote a few tunes. And then there was a point we said we should, instead of doing this in our apartments or in my parents' home, we should go out and play. So we were looking for somewhere to play. We walked into this place across the tracks. We were the only two white people for miles around. And it was in the afternoon. The guy said, set up here and play for the ladies crowd that's coming in. We just walked into this place and he said, sure. And we did. And he said, I'd like you to play every Thursday night from 9 at night till 4 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
So he hired us to play. And the first night we play, who shows up at Howlin' Wolf? He hops up on stage and plays with us. Then Muddy Waters, then
Wow.
Willie Dixon, then Otis Spann, then Buddy Guy and Junior Wells,
Wow.
Jimmy Cotton, all of the
Wow.
brilliant blues masters. And one guy comes up to me and says, "I'd like to sit in." And I said, "Well, it seems like you've been drinking a little bit. Why don't you come back another time?" And the audience yells, "Let him sit in, let him sit in. That's little Walter."
Oh, wow.
And it gets worse because I'm thinking, who's little Walter?
Okay, it's all right. It's all
So
right.
that story shapes exactly how early this was in my life and early into the blues, and how the blues masters really took us under their wings and took care of us. So then we end up becoming the Siegel Schwall Band shortly after that, and we start playing on the north side, and Howlin' Wolf comes up and brings his whole family
Wow.
to hear the band. I mean, oh my God. And he takes me aside. He says, I want to let you know your band is my favorite band.
Wow.
And he said, because you aren't just simply trying to imitate. You're coming up with something unusual, which I wasn't. I was trying to imitate. It's just that I was failing completely. But at any rate, then he took it back. He said, "Okay, you're not my favorite band. My band is my favorite band, but I'd like to take you guys on the road." And that's how that happened.
Wow. Our guest is Corky Siegel, the blues musician who's worked with symphony orchestras around the United States and also is known as an educator and is still very active as an educator and as a musician. So, what were you, 18 years old at this point? How old are you at this point?
Probably 9.
19? No,
9.
seriously.
It felt like I was 9, let's put it that way. No, I think I was very close to, well, let's say I was born in 43, late 43 October. My birthday is in a few days. So
your birthday's October 24th, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were born on Bill Wyman's birthday. Bill Wyman was born on October 20th. Did you know that, Bill Wyman?
I knew Bill Wyman, but I didn't know that his birthday was the same. And
yeah.
I'm staying with my violinist, Chishwen, and her partner, Nikki, and it's her birthday on October 24th also.
Hey, it's a very good day. Now, when I listened to your albums recently in preparation for the interview, I hadn't heard them in a very long time, and I thought to myself, I think what Howlin' Wolf liked is that you really were not imitating Howlin' Wolf. You were adding all sorts of other stuff to it, and you had a really kind of a light and graceful take on the blues that didn't sound like Butterfield. Butterfield really tried to be. I'm not criticizing him. He was fantastic, but really he had a different, like I'm a genius kind of a sound, and your sound was just like, let's have fun with the blues. It was really different.
He was a little more into the Little Walter style. She couldn't have picked anything better, and I was not adding things to the blues. I was taking things away. Right. I was simplifying it, way simplifying it,
right.
Because I wanted the band to sound tight and sound good. So I took a lot of the stuff away and focused on ta 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 ta. And I actually had Steve Miller's drummer come up to me and say, "You can't do that. Music is supposed to flow." Then he heard our record and finally sort of got it after a while and said, "I actually really like it." So,
okay, our guest is Corky Siegel. Now, Corky, here's the top. You just mentioned the topic that you're actually very well known for, the teaching ideas that you have presented that people have decided, oh my God, why didn't we think of that? So what is it that you developed with musicians? I'll use since I'm not a musician, to bring nuance or emphasis to the sound and make the audience really like it better, and the musicians had never thought of it either.
Well, it's not that they didn't think of it. The realization is that, well, the word is dynamics. Everyone knows about dynamics, and in short, there's only a few people that I've run into that understand how profound an element of music this is, and how, in order to take advantage of its incredible powers, you have to really be extreme for it to work. And when it works, it helps the artist reach their goal of why they play music in the first place almost immediately. almost immediately. That's what's amazing. So it's not really something that I developed. Well, yeah, I developed it. I stumbled upon this, and then I started studying it for years and years and years and getting really deep into it. Because when someone says, play from the heart, I go, well, what does that mean?
Right.
Then they try and explain it to me. I says, well, fine, but how do you do it? So my workshops are about how do you do it? When someone says swing is a feel thing, no. I go and examine it and find out how I could verbalize it to someone else. And by doing that, and I had to do that when I had a string quartet and I wanted them to swing. I didn't want to say swing. What does that mean? So I actually wrote out different things for them to play, and they nailed it immediately and got the swing feel immediately just by. But okay, that's so I don't really do that in the workshop, but the workshop is about dynamics. That's my whole focus because it is offers such a world of richness and how the performer feels when they're playing and the audience, which isn't that important, how they are mesmerized by this.
Right, right. Our guest is Corky Siegel. Corky Siegel, the musician. I guess you originally studied piano. I believe I read that you, in an effort to get into a university to study music, you were practicing 10 hours a day, which is like, it's a real commitment of time. Corky, so how can listeners of Here's to Your Health, find out more about your programs and where they can take your workshops? What are you doing right now? What are you working on currently?
Yeah. Well, okay. First of all, it's corkymusic.com.
Okay.
That covers the whole thing.
Okay.
And you could go, okay. So, and they'll be able to search and find things. So I do have a workshop coming up. I actually haven't done workshops in a long time, but it's something I'm always thinking of, something I'm always developing more and more and more. And one of the new aspects to it that I came up with is how do I explain the depth of the large dynamic range. So first I have to say, playing music has nothing to do with sound. Playing music is a physical thing you do to create the sound. And if you focus on that, that's where everything is happening. The touch, the motion, the pressure, all the physical things you do to create the sound. That's how to create the dynamic range. So the words I use I don't use loud and soft. I use delicate, and I tell them just touch the back of your hand. That's what I mean by delicate. Just when you just feel some energy, that's delicate. And forceful is like jumping for a key that's at the top of a door that you could barely reach, putting all your energy into it. That's your dynamic range. And I explain that and I lead them through it. The workshop lasts 3 minutes.
Huh.
And then there's an hour and a half of explanation and exploration.
All right. And you began to work, I guess, who was the famous musician? Seiji Ozawa, the conductor. He came to hear you in a club, and he decided that you should work with symphony orchestras. Now, that is really a singular event. I mean, I can't think of another musician, a blues or pop musician, in which a conductor would say, boy, I think really we should work together. How did that happen, and what was the offshot out of that?
So when I was at Peppers with Howlin' Wolf and all those guys, and Little Walter had come up, and I didn't know who it was. 1 year later, I'm at Big John's with the Siegel Schwal band, and this guy used to come in night after night after night. And one night he comes up to me and he says, I'd like your band to jam with my band. Well, I had this Little Walter experience where I didn't know who he was. So the first thoughts that came to my mind is, who is this guy? And what's his band? And his band was the Chicago Symphony, and he was Seiji Ozawa.
Wow.
And he wanted me and the band to bring blues to symphonic music and classical music, because he thought classical music for so many hundreds of years has been sort of stayed.
Yes.
But it always developed, traditionally, historically, classical music developed by taking in the folk forms of the day. Well, he felt blues is like this amazing folk forms, and classical music is going, stay away, So he wanted to bring that in, and that's how this whole thing started. And I fell in love with it, just like I had fallen in love with the blues. And Muddy and Wolf and all those guys love the idea.
Okay, so that was kind of a groundbreaking idea. Not only was it risky for you, it was certainly risky for him, because people would say, well, what's your problem bringing in blues? These guys, these guys are not classically trained at Juilliard, and, how dare you? So was there enormous pushback against both of you?
Well, my favorite story isn't the first performance with the Chicago Symphony in 1968, but the one in 1969. And the pushback was, it was a time when America was very divided.
Right.
In the 60s. I know, we laugh.
Yeah.
And, but it was reported in a newspaper that it was so divided, it was like the Grand Canyon. And so I get up on stage with my hippie band, and it wasn't Siegel Schwall at the time because we had disbanded for a while. So, all our long-haired, blue jeans, hippie band. And the New York Philharmonic and Lincoln Center audience said, what are these? I mean, I know what they were thinking. What are these hippies doing on our stage with our symphony in our Lincoln Center?
Right.
And they were all in their tuxedos and evening gowns and everything like that. And so they started booing and hissing and screaming and yelling.
Whoa.
And so, yes, there was quite a pushback. But when the music finished, what happened is immediate standing ovation.
Wow.
The president of the Symphony Association had come up to me and said, Corky, that was the longest and most intense standing ovation I ever heard, other than when it was Caruso's last performance. Now, I'm like a 22-year-old kid hearing this, and the next day in the newspaper, I can't think of the name of the critic, but he was the feared Pulitzer Prize winning music critic for the New York Times. And the headlines was, they love Corky Siegel in Lincoln Center. And then within the article, it said the audience did not merely like it, the audience loved it. And so here I am experiencing all this division and hatred and anger and vitriol coming from the audience, playing music, that disappears, it turns into love. So I saw that as a young kid, as a young musician, seeing the power of music. And I realized from that point on, I know what my job is. Music heals. We all know that. Music uplifts, music unifies. Let it do its work. I'm going to follow that. So that's what I've been doing. So everything I've done has really come from thinking, little by little, more and more thinking, this is really my role on this earth, is to bring music.
Right.
Yeah.
Our guest is Corky Siegel, who is a blues musician, a musician, an educator, teacher. It's remarkable. Well, Corky, let me ask this a question as far as foundation. So if you were in a house that loved music when you were a kid, were your parents listening to the Weavers? I mean, Paul Robeson, Woody Guthrie, Frank Sinatra. Who are your parents listening to that you listened to and thought, oh, I like that, and I'm going to, I like it?
Yeah. Well, understand, when we're kids, we like everything.
Oh, it's probably true. You're right. Yeah.
So they played a lot of Gershwin.
Oh.
And Carnival of the Animals.
Okay.
And then the pop music of the day, like Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and it's like that. Yeah, that was played.
So you just like that? By the way, were your parents, did they play instruments? Did they sing in the house? Were they musical?
Unfortunately, they sang in the house.
Well, that seems kind of cool. I mean, if you're in a house where your parents are singing, that's got to be good. You know what I mean? So it sounds good.
Well, not in tune, that's for sure. So, but my dad did play clarinet, and he taught me a little bit of clarinet, and that was sort of my first instrument.
Okay, so now here's a question. So in February of '64, when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan for the first time, what were you doing?
I was playing saxophone.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
In a high school band?
Well, I had two friends. One played guitar and one played drums. And I just played saxophone. And we went out and tried playing places, and that was, again, across the tracks.
Right.
There was this attraction to be with the good people.
And by the way, when you, as a teenage boy, went across the tracks, that actually, now it's a great story, but it must have been a little bit risky, and you must have thought, well, why isn't the place filled with other people just like me listening to this fantastic music? I mean, so what was in your mind thinking, well, where are the rest of my teenage friends from high school? Why aren't they here? This is fantastic music.
Yeah.
And also there must have been some danger.
Well, oblivious is the word.
Okay.
I just sort of was going. It was there, and I went and never thought a thing of it. But in retrospect, it was definitely politically driven.
Okay.
Because my parents told me we live in America, this is a free country, we treat everyone equally. And I saw that wasn't true. And I saw how we were treating and talking about a whole race of people not in a good way. And I'm sure that was the energy behind why a lot of the white musicians went to the black neighborhoods, and fell in love with the blues and all that, because it was, we weren't comfortable in our own neighborhoods.
Right. Okay, so when you toured with Howling Wolf, which is, pretty remarkable. So now, of course, the Stones were very gracious, and that they really told everyone, because I was like, younger, I'm a little younger than you. So when the Stones said, we learned this is Howling Wolf, and I thought I'd never heard of Howling Wolf, and then the Stones said Howling Wolf, and suddenly I investigated Sonny Boy Williamson and everybody else because, Tampa Red, because people were saying, oh yeah, this is a great musician. So where did Howling Wolf play then in 1966 when you were another band touring with him? Where was he? Where were you and he playing?
He was playing. We played in upstate New York at a lot, different universities, a few universities, and I don't have a good recollection of that. But we did play at the Cafe A Go-Go in New York City, and that was it. And I just must say, in terms of the uniqueness of this, the one thing that to me, again in retrospect, was incredibly unique, and I never realized it until recently, is when we were playing with all the blues masters in Chicago, we weren't going there to sit in with them. We were on stage performing, and they were coming and sitting in with us all night long, from 9 at night to 4 in the morning. Every night, all these blues masters coming to sit in with us.
Right.
That never happened to anybody on a regular basis like that, from what I understand, not at that time anyway. I call my story an innocent victim of incredible good fortune. I was oblivious to all of it. And I thought it was cool. But when I look back at it, I go, oh my God.
Right.
That was like unbelievable. That was amazing. But I didn't know it back then. It's only in retrospect. And Wolf used to knock on my door every morning, like at 8 a.m. And we'd take these long walks in the village. And it was just, that was my life. I never thought, this is what life is.
So the bluesmen of importance who came and listened to you every night, they just liked the fact that you didn't try to sound like them. You didn't try to imitate the style of the 50s or 60s Chicago blues. You brought your own kind of, I'll just use the broad term, good-timey or relaxed and intelligent musicality to it. And these men realized, this guy has a fresh sound. Is that a fair characterization?
I'm impressed. That was really good.
Oh, thank you. Well, listen, luckily, I'm really very happy you're on the show because I've listened to your music and Howling Wolf and Little Walter and everybody else for a very long time, and I liked it then, and I like it now, and I like all sorts of music, and I'm not a musician, I'm just a fan, so I miss all the nuance. I understand nothing. However, when I, in preparation for the interview, when I heard you discussing what you discuss as far as how to bring out, what's the word you use again? I can't remember the term. What's the term that you've coined?
Intensity variation. I didn't use that, but are you talking about dynamics? Variation?
Yeah. That's just what a lovely idea. I don't know anything about music, so and then you mentioned that you had some people even in high school that you were counseling, and and you told them to do that, and they got such a better sound. They right away they realized, oh my God, we didn't know this, and it makes my sound better. So that really makes you an educator. I mean, like that's lovely to be an educator. Not all musicians have that skill. I mean, that's really just a skill.
Yeah, I think what I was saying, and why I approach it differently, is when I talk about music with someone they go screaming out of the room, because most people on any subject, they get on the surface and they don't want to go too much further below the surface. I can't stop there. I have to dig and dig and dig and dig. And if every question isn't answered, I'm still digging. So again, when someone says it's a feel thing, I go, no. There is a feel thing, but why and what? How is it actually happening in physical terms? And a lot of people say, no, you can't do that. It's music. It has to be a feel thing. And I've experienced the opposite. If you approach music very mechanically, and start there, it gives you the tools then to go, oh yeah, this works beautifully. This is a great. But people tend to avoid the reality of swing is a variation of the triplet. It's of different ways of playing the triplet, and it's if they actually study and get into it, there's a lot of beautiful answers that come out of that kind of approach. So my whole project with dynamics comes out of, okay, why does it work? What's happening? Why does it work? And how could we make it work even better?
Right.
And that's been going on for 40 years. Well, since 1973, when I discovered this is a really cool technique. There isn't a day that goes by when I don't have revelations about how to make it better. And that's when I offer to my workshops, is trying to say, look, do this and you'll see what happens. So I'm a do this kind of a workshop guy. I don't want to say focus, and no, don't use the word focus. Just say do this, and then they'll get the focus, So the do this is the key.
We simply ran out of time. Our guest has been Corky Siegel. Corky Siegel, once again, give us your contact information.
The website is corkymusic.com and email cork@chamberblues.com.
Thank you very much. Our guest has been Corky Siegel, a great teacher of music, a great blues musician, born on October 24th, which is a great day. And this is Josh Lane. You're listening to Here's to Your Health. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after these important messages.
Friends, say goodbye to rough, dry, and troubled skin. Even acne scars fade with Aloe Life Skin Gel by Aloe Life, not over-processed. So look for the dark yellow color, like the ancients wrote about, that gets to work fast in 5 minutes to 45 days. Skin Gel for more beautiful skin by Aloe Life. Call 800-414-ALOE. That's 800-414-ALOE. An A+ Better Business Bureau company. Skin Gel available at Whole Foods, Clark's, Natural Grocers, other quality stores, plus AloeLife.com. 800-414-ALOE. That's 800-414-ALOE. Aloe Life, aloe vera. For you, 800-414-ALOE. Do something good for yourself. Zoom into the new year. Leaders in health products since 1991. Aloe Life, for a healthier life.
Have you had your Carlson Norwegian fish oil today? Decades ago, scientists discovered why Greenland Eskimos maintain healthy hearts despite their high-fat diets. The high level of omega-3 oils in their seafood diet protected their hearts. Carlson Norwegian fish oil provides those important omega-3 oils. The same omega-3s from cold water fish support maximum brain power, immune strength, joint comfort, and our vision too. Carlson, the very finest fish oil, is a valuable source of the important omega-3s, EPA and DHA. Each teaspoon provides a full 1,600 milligrams of omega-3s. And its purity is guaranteed. Try it on salads and popcorn. It tastes like lemon, not fishy. Ask for Carlson, the very finest fish oil, at finer health food stores today.
The latest from the greatest, the best in new music by classic rockers, with your host, the insane Daryl Wayne.
This is Alice Cooper, and if Daryl Wayne is insane, what does that make me? Criminally insane. Stick around to find out.
Many of the artist interviews for the latest from the greatest have been captured on audio book. There is a Volume 1 and Volume 2. Great information and conversations with people in the industry and people surrounded by the industry, and of course the rock stars themselves.
I'm the Reverend Al Green, and you're listening to the insane Daryl Wayne. And I said Wayne Insane.
You can find it on Amazon or Blackstone Audio. Search for the latest from the greatest from Daryl Wayne, Darrell Wayne.
Hello, this is Weird Al Yankovic, and you're listening to the insane Daryl Wayne, aren't you?
Thank you for listening to the show. If you have suggestions for guests or topics you would like to hear, please email me at joshlane.wellness@gmail.com. That's joshlane@gmail.com. JOSHLANE wellness@gmail.com. On behalf of the cast and crew, I would like to wish you a healthy and safe good evening.